It is now July 17th. It's the night. Well, it's the 18th now, but whatever. And the effects of watching so many films in a month is starting to get to me. It's a lot. But I watched 20 more films this week, and I'm gonna share my thoughts with you about the movies. To start the week, I decided to do a bad movie marathon. Probably not the best idea. I started with the film Daniel the Wizard. This is a German film. It's in German. I paid $3 to watch it. It didn't have subtitles. And it was amazing. Like, nothing makes sense in this film, and it's really funny, especially when you don't know what people are saying. At one point, Daniel is kidnapped by these two teenagers, I guess. And then after they let him go, he comes back and he gives them a guitar as a present, and then they become best friends. Incredible. After that, I watched The Haunting of Sharon Tate, which was terrible. An insanely boring, exploitation movie that uses a real-life tragedy to get attention. It's horribly directed. Nothing happens in this movie. It's terrible. Then I watched Food Fight, which is one of the most wonderfully, hilariously bad films I've ever seen. It's impressive how awful the animation is. It's so funny. The weasel character will give me nightmares forever. It's a joy. I would highly recommend. After that, I watched Saving Christmas. Not that terrible, to be honest. It's awful. But as far as Christian propaganda goes, it's not that bad. It's pretty bearable. It's just very boring and dumb. The dance sequence is hilarious, incredible. And then after that, I watched The Legend of the Titanic. The Legend of the Titanic is just so mind-numbingly boring that, I just couldn't bear it. It's so boring. It's not funny bad, just terrible. Would not recommend. After that, I watched Cleo from 5 to 7, which is just a really fantastic film. It has very similar energy and feel to the Before trilogy, but mainly just in terms of how you kind of just follow these characters as they walk around this, giant city and meet other people and talk about different things. It's definitely not a romance, as most of the movie is about this woman, Cleo, who is anxiously awaiting test results to see if she has cancer. And just a really interesting film. After that, I watched Rome Open City. I think in the first video, I had said that this was filmed during the occupation of Italy. It was not. It was filmed, or it wasn't filmed. It was, writing on it began 2 months after the Allies reclaimed it, I believe. So I was wrong about that. But it's a pretty great anti-war film. The second half, I definitely think, is better than the first half, as you just see how, cruel and awful the Nazis were. After that, the torture couldn't be over, so I watched Not Cool, which has a very appropriate title. It's not a cool movie. It's awful. All you need to know about this movie is that there is a character who sexually assaults another character, and they become friends by the end of the movie. Then after that, I watched the Shaun the Sheep movie, which is a wonderful film. I love that this film has no dialogue, and you completely understand all the characters' motivations and exactly what they're going to do and what their plan is. It's wonderful. After that, I watched Duel, a Steven Spielberg film, his debut film, and it's a pretty tense, very interesting thriller film about basically a guy who's just being hunted and chased and toyed with by this rusty old diesel truck that is basically just trying to kill him. But the truck plays it as a cat and mouse game, and it's super tense and really well done. I do think there are some scenes that slow the movie down too much, and there is a narration that comes in. You hear our main character's thoughts at a certain point, and it's kind of off-putting because it happens like 25 minutes in, and there wasn't anything like that before. But yeah, really enjoyable thriller. After that, I watched Stray Dog, an Akira Kurosawa film. Fantastic noir film. It's a super interesting film that I think does a lot to humanize criminals and people who do very, awful things in a way that understands the reasons as to why they eventually commit the crimes they commit, but also sort of comes to the conclusion that ultimately they still need to be stopped because their actions hurt so many people around them, even if they're in a bad situation that led them to do those actions. Fantastic film. After that, I watched Shrek the Third. It's a nothing movie. Nothing of importance happens, except Shrek and Fiona have the babies. Da babies. Yeah, it's kind of pointless. Justin Timberlake is not very good. Whatever. After that, I watched Shrek Forever After, the fourth Shrek film, which is actually pretty good. Pretty just fun, colorful, animated movie. It's not great, it's not as good as the first two, but it felt like there were actual stakes, and it was actually a very interesting and creative plot. So, solid. After that, I watched Attack the Block, which it's a really fun, entertaining little alien invasion movie, and, it kind of uses the alien invasion to humanize a lot of people who probably wouldn't otherwise be humanized, and that's cool. I think it's a bit slow at the beginning, though. I wish it did a bit better job of getting to the invasion part, and for a movie that's already sort of goofy, it jumps the shark a bit at the end. After that, I watched The Last of the Mohicans, which I found to be painfully boring. Like, this movie is very well directed. Michael Mann, he knows how to direct a film. It looks fantastic. Daniel Day-Lewis gives a good performance, but I just don't care about this time period at all. Very few movies have made me interested in the time period, and this one didn't either. I just found it painfully boring. Then I watched Coraline, which is a wonderful animated movie. It's so incredibly creative. I think it has just a very satisfying character arc and story. It's really fantastic, but I do feel like it could have been cut down a bit. I just feel like it's a bit too long for the story it's telling. I wish it was just a bit shorter, basically. I think there's some bloat or some parts that could have been more effectively communicated faster. Then I watched Repo Man, which is a pretty hilarious 80s satire. It's very homophobic and kind of sexist because it's an 80s movie, but as far as a satire of Reaganism and the awful conditions that were created because of it, it's really fantastic and hilarious. Yeah, very, very good. After that, I watched The Passion of Joan of Arc. This movie is gorgeous. It's a silent film from 1928, and it has such unconventional and interesting camera work. It's just beautiful to watch. And man, the plot is really emotionally investing. I was not expecting a silent film to impact me the way this one did. But just a beautiful, incredible film. Then after that, I watched Space Jam: A New Legacy. I have not seen the first Space Jam. I know roughly what happens in it, and man, Space Jam: A New Legacy kind of sucks. Holy crap, it is so painfully unfunny, and the entire film is just a ton of product placement for Warner Bros. Properties. It sucks. It has Don Cheadle though, so I can't hate it too much. And then finally, I watched Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which is a wonderful animated film. Just, it looks amazing. There's so much personality and creativity. It's an incredibly enjoyable, investing plot. Just a really great movie. Really great. That's it for this week. I find that as I've gone on in this challenge, I've become a lot more impatient with the movies that I'm watching. So some of the stuff that hasn't held my attention, I've found myself really struggling to just stay on it. Quite a few I've had to just pause and go watch something else and come back to them. Might have to kick it up into overdrive at some point, because I'm at 55 and I have about 14 days left or something. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to see my continued progress on this journey. Like and subscribe and hit that bell for the content. I guess other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day.